Hello, amazing moms, and welcome to Parenting Powerhouse, the podcast that's here to transform your parenting journey into a powerhouse of love, understanding, and success. I'm your host, Tara Travell, and I'm thrilled to be your guide through the incredible adventure of raising neurodiverse children. As a seasoned teacher specializing in ADHD and autism, my mission is to help individuals with unique abilities not just navigate, but thrive in their social worlds, at home, in school, in their careers, and within personal relationships at any time in their life. But that's not all. I am a dedicated parent coach, committed to reducing burnout and dispelling the feelings of loneliness and failure that can sometimes come with the extraordinary task of raising a child with special needs. Moms, I get it. I am also a parent of neurodivergent people. The journey may feel overwhelming at times, but believe me, you're not alone. This podcast is your sanctuary. A place where you'll find direction, support, and strategies to not only survive, but truly flourish. My obsession is empowering moms like you, and I'm here to be your accountability partner, guiding you towards creating a loving relationship with yourself, your child, and everyone in your household. Thanks so much for pushing play. So buckle up for heartwarming stories, expert insights, and practical advice that will empower you to embrace the uniqueness of your family and build a life filled with love and joy. Get ready to embark on a journey where you're not just a mom, you're a parenting powerhouse. Let's make every moment count together. Don't forget to follow so that you never miss an amazing episode that just might connect with your unique situation. I'd like to introduce Becky, a powerhouse mom on a mission. She navigated the maze of education systems for the rights of children with unique needs. So Becky has emerged as a beacon of hope for parents like herself. Frustrated by the lack of clarity and support, Becky refused to let her challenges define her journey. So instead, she turned her frustration into fuel, transforming herself into an educational advocate extraordinaire. So, with a child in need of a 504 IEP, Becky knows firsthand the uphill battle many parents face. Determined to bridge the gap between confusion and clarity, she dove headfirst into the intricacies of the education system. Armed with knowledge and fueled by passion, Becky became a fierce advocate for her child and for countless others. Now, Becky brings her wealth of experience and unwavering determination to the forefront as a guest on this podcast episode. Join us as we delve into Becky's inspiring journey from mom to educational advocate, uncovering the invaluable insights and strategies she's gathered along the way. Together, let's learn how to navigate the complexities of the education system and ensure every child receives the support and resources they deserve. Hey, Becky, it's great to see you.
It's nice to see you too, Tara.
Thanks so much for coming in.
Absolutely.
So I think this is going to be fun. We have a lot to talk about.
Yes.
But the first question to head off, the whole conversation today, I just want to know if you can share for our listeners a bit about your own journey as a parent and how you became an educational advocate.
Sure. So it wasn't my goal in life. My goal in life was actually to be a teacher. And then we adopted, both of our kids are adopted, and our daughter was the one who really kind of put me into that realm of being an advocate. She had needs when she was younger. Everyone thought I was crazy. Because back then, she's 16 now, back then, autism in girls wasn't prevalent, so to speak, right? Like it was always boys. So, and also back then, her pediatrician diagnosed her because they could, right? They were able to do that. So we struggled with finding a preschool for her because she wasn't potty trained. And so no preschool would take her without being potty trained. And she did have early intervention services, which was great, but it was only for speech and language and OT, if I remember correctly. So it wasn't anything to do with her diagnoses. So I did find the Y, Brandywine YMCA, an amazing teacher, was like, yeah, she can come here even though she's not potty trained. And I was like, great. And so they actually potty trained her.
Nice.
Yes, so that was really good. But then the school came in to do their evaluation for her to come into kindergarten. And this is really kind of what got me to be an advocate was she tanked all of her assessments, like tanked them. And the district said to me that there was really nothing that they could do right now for her, that they would have to wait and see. And a lot of us parents know that that's the wait to see fail method. And they weren't recognizing her diagnosis of autism because they said that she did not have educational autism. And at the time, and I still cringe with families that come to me and say that this is what their district has said. But because she was able to make eye contact with the person that was giving the assessments, they said that she didn't have education. She did not qualify for educational autism.
So if you could see the look on my face right now, I am like in shock, but I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, that's fine. So I received the evaluation, if I remember correctly, and then I received a phone call, and they were like, "We're doing the IEP meeting. Can you meet us in an hour for the IEP meeting?" And I was like, "Sure." I didn't know any better, so I went, and it was myself and a bunch of people from my district, and it was awful. And I remember leaving and saying that I could never allow another parent to go through what I went through. And so my husband was like, well, find something, find like what to do. And I was like, I don't even know where to begin, like what to do, how to Google it, whatever. So I did end up finding a course. But let me just say, you don't need any type of courses or anything like that to be an advocate. So I just want to make sure that people understand that. This was just, I had found it. I didn't know. So I went through these courses, and that's where I actually found my advocate, who is no longer my advocate. But I thought that I had a really good IEP, and she was like, your IEP sucks. And I was like, great.
You should feel good.
It does, right? So that's kind of how I ended up. I learned from her, but my daughter was the one, because I know how I felt sitting in an IEP meeting, not knowing anything, not knowing what to ask, but knowing that I was denied what I was asked for and not knowing where to go from there.
I think that's continually happening today.
Yes.
I mean, it is.
Yes.
So, and that's really good information for parents to know that, you know what, if this is some, direction that you want to take, it's out there for you. It is. You don't have to have any specific, like real formal education.
Nope, you don't.
That's awesome.
Just understanding the special education process is really what it is all about.
Cool. Awesome. And maybe we can add some links in the description to a couple of places if you have something in mind or whatever.
Yeah, sure.
People. Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So could you just describe a little bit about your role as an educational advocate so that we can share that with parents if they are wondering for themselves?
Sure. So basically, I am your child's voice. So I advocate for the child. I want what is best for the child, as does the school district. I think that that's important to understand. Is I know parents can get angry, and rightfully so. However, school districts are not out to get the kids. They have a job to do, and they do their job to their best ability. And that's sometimes where I come in to help parents understand the process of special ed, and also to be the child's voice and to help them communicate to the district. I tell parents, one of the main questions that parents always ask me or say to me is, I never know what to ask the district. And I always tell them, you can ask for anything you want because you can. Now, is the district going to agree? Probably not. Maybe they will. But if they don't agree, it opens up doors to have conversations, right? So if they say to you, we can't do X, Y, and Z, my response is always, okay, could you do A, B, and C then instead? Can we look at it differently? So I come into it with a different lens. I look at things that have worked for my other clients. I look at things that have worked for my kid, my own child, right? Like, maybe this could work. And a lot of times the districts are like, you know what? That makes a lot of sense. Let's try this. And usually we're like, okay, let's try it for 4 to 6 weeks and see how it goes. If everything's going good, then we don't need to have a meeting. But if it doesn't, then let's come back to the table. I'm also there for support for families because I've been through it all, not only with my daughter, but with my son. And so I can truly say, I understand what you're going through. And I think that that's helpful to families, especially moms, to know that they're not alone.
Yeah, huge.
So that's really what my role is, and understanding the evaluation reports too, helping parents to know what they are in more layman's terms, and being like, okay, this is what I think the district is going to offer, and this is why I think they're going to offer you this, and things like that.
I think that's huge. I'm glad you added that, the evaluation reports, because they are hard to navigate if you don't know what you're looking at and looking for.
Yes.
So that's wonderful. I think that really helps families. So now we'll go into you raising your children. So how has raising a child with autism shaped your perspective on education and advocacy?
So I've learned through her kind of like what to do and what not to do, maybe, right? Like, and I use her IP, I use her goals and things like that to kind of help me with other families who have kids that are on the spectrum. Just to be like, okay, well, you know, she used to struggle with understanding multiple meaning of words, right? So I've had clients who've had kids. And so I'll go back and I'll look at what her goals are. And I'm like, okay, let's try this. But then I also am able to know what a family is going through when it is that the district doesn't listen, right? Or they are clearly looking at the child and the behaviors, and they're not looking at the whole student, right? So, I can say to the parents, yep, I've been there. I get it. And this is what we can do. This is how we can walk through it. It's not easy. And that's one of the things that I tell families too. So I think she's just given me my niche, right, of working with families with autism and helping districts understand. Because here's what I say. In the 70s, that's when ID was very prevalent, right? And schools didn't understand ID, which is intellectual disability. They didn't understand it. They finally got caught up, and now we have kids with autism that they don't understand, right? Mm-hmm. And so, and now add mental health into that too. So I just help really educate districts on what autism is and what it looks like and how it looks different in every child. It looks different, but it's still autism, and we still have to look at that.
Excellent. Cool. Yeah, I like that you are educating the districts and the team, right? Not just the parents. And,
right.
Exactly. That's perfect. So let's go into that then. Educators, how do you think that educators in schools can better understand and support children with autism or other special needs? What do they need to do, or where, how could they better understand this?
I think one of the things is not to take everything personally.
Good one. I love that. I think I say that every day.
So I think as humans, it's only natural, right? So if anyone we perceive as being mean to us, right? We are going to get our defenses up and we want to be mean back or whatever. But we have to understand kids with any type of disability, whether it's autism or ID or behaviors, mental health, things like that, they're not doing this to personally attack you, right? And so before you as an educator respond, and even as a parent, you need to take that step and take a couple of breaths, center yourselves, get yourself back to where you need to be, because you reacting to them is going to heighten their reaction. And so if you can remain calm and control your brain waves and control your feelings and your response, you will get a better outcome. And so it's hard. I'm not saying, that's the easiest thing to do because it's not.
Right.
Trust me. But I think that if we can start to understand that behaviors are communication for something, that student is telling you something. Even if that student is throwing chairs or screaming or whatever they're doing, they're telling you something. Something's hurting. Something's not right. Something needs to be different. And again, not taking it personally.
And like you said, it's really hard to do. And honestly, it might not be that only that kind of behavior, right? I mean,
Right.
The behavior might be big, but it could be the kid just looks at you and says, I'm not going to do it, or this is stupid,
Right.
or I don't like you, something like that. That's not what they're really saying. That's
Correct.
just their strategy or how they feel in the moment because something is so hard.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's 100%. My daughter is one of her traits, and I tell all new people when they're interacting with her, is she's mean. Like, she can be mean and she can be nasty, but that's her coping mechanism, right? When she is like that, she's doing it for a reason. And sometimes it's to see if you're going to come back to her. If she's mean to you, are you going to stay when it's hard? And if you stay when it's hard with her, you've gotten her. She's going to do what you ask her to do, because that's what she's looking for. And unfortunately, that's just her coping mechanism that we're working on to not be like that. But for now, that's where we are.
Right.
But so you have to understand that when they're mean to you and call you those names, it's not directed towards you. It's something else. And here's what I like to say. When you are an adult and something happens to you that you don't like, or somebody says something to you that you don't like, you have a behavior, right? You might cuss them out. You might hit them, right? You might storm out and slam a door and things fall off of their desk. That's a behavior. You just had a behavior and you made your point. But we're an adult, and adults are like, well, that's okay. They were upset and angry. Well, that's just like a kid. They're upset and angry. You just maybe felt a little embarrassed because it was in front of other kids.
Good point. Really good point. Yeah, definitely. I wish everybody would. And it is hard, like you said, but we need to think about this.
It is really hard. And I will say, my husband had a really hard time understanding that when we were going through some things with my son. And, my husband was like, well, I'm the dad and you have to listen to what I'm saying. And so I think too, until you experience it and until you go through it, you won't ever understand it. And he tells me every day, like, he gets it now. And he still has his moments, just like I do. We all do, but he gets it. So I think it is difficult when you are a teacher or you are an administrator and you don't have a child that has needs. I don't think you will ever truly understand, but you can at least try to understand that.
Exactly. And I think that's why we're here today, to try to open those doors a little bit.
For sure.
Definitely. So what advice would you give to parents who are just starting to navigate the educational system for their child with special needs?
I think every parent should have an advocate. I really do. And I'm speaking actually from experience. So I just had a meeting with my daughter like last week, and I didn't have an advocate with me. I had you with me, right? But when I left that meeting, there were so many things that I should have said or I should have done that I would have done for a client because I would not be emotionally in it. Like I'm not emotionally attached to a case. So I can think very clearly. And so I think you need an advocate, especially if this is like your, more so if it's your first IEP meeting, because it is very overwhelming. The district brings everyone under the sun. And, you know, you are like, oh my word. And you are in a grieving period, especially if, you know, this is the first time maybe getting a diagnosis or really accepting what is happening to your child. You do grieve. You do go through a grieving process. And so with an advocate there, I will take notes. I can talk for you. I can explain things for you. And I even say to you, like, hey, did you understand what they were saying? Right. And if you don't, I'm like, okay, we're going to just take a minute here so I can explain this. So I think that everyone should, because it's a very overwhelming process and parents are emotional and we get defensive when somebody speaks negatively about our student. And so we hear things in a different way than what might not really be heard. Like I can give you an example. I was on the phone with somebody yesterday and she said to me, well, the assistant principal said that if I don't do this evaluation, he's going to treat my kid just like any other kid. And so wow. I explained exactly what that meant, what he meant behind that. Now, is that exactly what he said? I don't know. I wasn't there, right? But she is already in an emotional state. So maybe that's her truth. That's what she heard. And so I explained to her what he's saying is she's protected under IDEA if she begins this process of being evaluated where she won't get in trouble. We can go more into that on another episode or whatever. But so if you don't do this, she's not protected. And if she was ever caught at school vaping or whatever, she's going to get in trouble like a typical peer would get in trouble. Whereas under an IEP, she wouldn't, the punishment might not be as severe. So, and then she was like, oh, I get it. Right. But at that moment, that's not what she heard. And I get that a lot, right? A lot of parents will, it's because they're upset and this is what they hear. And so I recommend an advocate. I think you should have one.
That's great advice. And to know that, you know, a lot of people are like, oh my gosh, the dollar signs are flipping, I'm sure. Yeah. And because it can be very expensive.
It can.
It is totally worth it if you can make it happen, no matter what. But at least I think I like what you said, at least for that first meeting, to get you in the door, you know, and just to understand some of this. And yes, that meeting, that first meeting, I totally agree.
Yeah, I think it's important. And I think my job really is for you, for a parent, to fire me, right? Like I want you to be able to do this on your own. And I want you to be able to go into a meeting and know what you have to say and do.
Huh. So Becky, I just heard you say, hey, I want to get to the point where you fire me.
Exactly.
I don't think I've ever heard anybody say that.
Because, you know, I
love it.
That's what I want you to be able to do, right? Yeah. Or at least have me in the background where we prep before the meeting and I give you the tools that you need and then you can come back. And I think the most important thing to remember, and I tell my families this all the time, is you can stop a meeting whenever you want. If you're not feeling comfortable or you're starting to feel overwhelmed or you're starting to feel that the district isn't hearing you, whatever, you are able to say, you know what, I think we need to just stop here. I need to get myself together and we need to reschedule this meeting. And then, you can call up your advocate and be like, you know what, I really need you to come because this is what happened. So just understand that, like, you're not locked into that meeting, right? Like, you can stop that meeting if you're feeling uncomfortable.
Cool. I like that. Definitely. So we're going to shift gears a little bit away from the school, and let's think about community. How important is it for the community to be involved in supporting children with special needs, both educationally and socially?
So I think it's huge. And I say this all the time because my daughter is 16 and my daughter wants a job. However, her skills aren't there yet for a job. And when we go, I feel like that I have to explain her to everyone. And it's exhausting as a parent. We are not disability friendly at all. We don't, we, we only are disability friendly when our children are going through school and they're staying in till they're like 22, because school districts have certain relationships with employees like Wawa or Giant, or, that's where we're disability friendly because they're coming in with somebody, right? But that age of 16 until they graduate, because OVR, Office of Vocational Rehabilitation, does not start until they graduate. Right? So that's not fair. We have these kids that want to work. They might not have the skills. They just need a little bit of help. They can't get it. That's so unfair to them. We have so many resources for little kids, for young kids, right? They're easier, so to speak. But we don't have anything for our older generation, our older population, from like, I don't know, I'm going to say from like 12 on up. We don't have social connection groups for them where it's safe, right? Where they can go and they can learn and they can experience. I mean, I know there's families out there who want their children to date, right? But they're not able to date traditionally because they don't understand, right? And so we need to help them with that. And I can tell you, every family that I work with, the number one request that they have to school districts is that their kids don't have friends. Yes. Right? And so schools are very cookie cutter with their social skills. They don't generalize them. They don't help them to generalize them. And then we go out into the community and there's nothing for them to make friends. They don't know how to do it because, maybe they don't want to go to the movies because it's too loud, and they don't want to, and it's too dark, and they don't want to go bowling because, again, it's too loud. There's just nothing. There's nothing for there's nothing even for our adults. I used to work at the ARC of Chester County, and the ARC does do great. They used to, I haven't been there, I don't know if they still do, but they used to have activities for the older adults. And that's great. But that's only once a month, right? Like, you want to go out on a Friday night. So our community, especially Chester County, who is the richest county in Pennsylvania, they need to step it up because they have nothing for this age, for our older kids.
That's really good insight. And what I just heard from you is, there's a whole array of things. So those of you listening, your niche is probably within something that Becky just shared, so if you're ready to go out there and help your kids or, your community, and you have the know-it-all to do it or the feel for it, that could be your niche because it's needed. It's needed. So
it is needed. I'll help you. Like, I will do whatever I can because I have a daughter that wants to do the same thing. If we could, it would be great if we could have job coaches that just, are job coaches, that you don't have to go through the CCIU to get a job coach. You don't have to go through OVR to get a job coach. I think that that's the hard part. And I understand parents, aren't able to afford a lot of this extra stuff, and medical assistance, doesn't cover everything. And it is a lot for companies or people to apply for medical assistance to be able to take it. There's a lot of things that you have to do, but somehow we need to come together, and really the county needs to step up and do what they need to do to help with this.
Definitely. Definitely. What I hear from you is that, when as parents, we think about advocacy, and it usually stops at school, but it's not, it's everywhere.
It is.
In every situation in our child's life.
Yep. Absolutely.
Definitely.
Absolutely.
So what I want to do is maybe go into a little bit of your own personal experiences.
Sure.
And ask you, how do you manage to balance your role as a parent, an advocate, and taking care of yourself? A loaded question, right?
Yeah. That's so funny. So I used to not, and I will say that it is still hard, especially like when my daughter texts me from school, like, come get me. I don't want to be here. And I could be in the middle of a meeting, or, I'm doing something, and I'm like, I got to get my focus back to where I am. But I think at some point, and I don't know where that was for me, I do know where it was for me for my son, because now he's 18, and, there's nothing else I can do for him. And that's kind of what I came to the realization of, is I've done everything that I possibly can for both of my kids, and I'm still doing for my daughter. But I know that I'm a good mom, and I know that to be a good mom, I need to take care of myself. And so I make it a point every morning, once I get her to school, I go and I work out. And at night, when my husband comes home, we go for a 45-minute walk. But I have to do those things because I'm a better person for it, and I am a better mom. It's hard. There are days, when you're frustrated, and because one's not going to school, or, whatever it is. But I just have to keep telling myself, I'm a good mom. This isn't a reflection of me, right? Like, I think that's what's important. Our kids make their own decisions, and that's not a reflection of you. You've done what you could do. You've given them the right tools. You taught them right from wrong. Now it's up to them. So thankfully, being an advocate, my hours are very flexible, right? So I have a lot of downtime, so to speak. And then I schedule, the meetings when I can. And I've told my daughter, like, hey, I'm in a meeting. Stop texting. You're safe. I know you're safe, right? But you have to find time, whatever that is for you. If it's going for a walk, if it's sitting and watching TV, if it's whatever you need to recharge yourself, put it in your calendar, set yourself a reminder, do it every day. Our bodies love routine. And so if you can get into that routine of every day at this time, this is when I work out, and nothing is going to come between you and whatever that is. I think that's what's important.
I totally agree. And, I like the fact that you brought that up, the routine, because to be able to create a routine, it's really a habit, right?
Yes.
And I guess research shows that it takes about 60 days to create a habit.
Yes.
On average.
Right.
It could take 100.
It could.
Or it could take 20.
It could.
But it's really getting to that habit. That's the easy part, the habit is.
Right.
But getting there is tough. So it is, like you said, setting the reminders, because it takes a lot of self-discipline. That motivation is there in the beginning, and it goes away quickly.
It does.
Right? So then it turns into this self-discipline that you have to rely on
Yeah.
because the motivation is gone. You still haven't created the habit.
Right. Right.
So as long as you can, be disciplined, you will create that habit.
And I think what else is important, and I help people, like I talk to parents who have kids with ADHD and even adults, is remember that feeling you felt when you accomplished something. How did you feel about yourself? How did you feel when you, whatever it is, right? Like I had a kid that I used to work with, and he did ice hockey, and he would tell me about like making a goal and things like that. And I was like, well, how did you feel? And he was like, it was awesome. It was the best feeling in the world. That is a feeling that you need to go back to when you're doing something. Remember how you felt after you worked out, or when you took your walk, or when you drank the water that you were supposed to drink. Remembering what your body felt like and how you felt proud and accomplished, because that will help you when that motivation is not there. It's just that feeling.
Love it. That's great. I'm going to use that. Thank you so
You're
much,
welcome.
Becky. So that was another question, is what self-care practices or strategies have helped you navigate these responsibilities? So, is there anything that you feel that maybe isn't a routine, but something that just, in the moment, what can you use in the moment? Because there's other things like going to the gym, that takes time. The walk takes time. What do you do in the moment when you are frustrated and you need to, face a challenge?
So it depends, right? It depends on where I am. If like I'm by myself or something, like sometimes I've cried, right? Just that release feels good. Deep breathing. Breathing is always, something that helps. I really enjoy listening to audiobooks. Like I really don't listen to music anymore. I just listen to audiobooks. A lot of them are like, they're mysteries or, things like that. And that kind of just brings me back, grounds me, and just knowing that whatever the situation was, not to take it personally.
Cool.
Right.
Yeah.
Just going back to that, because we all get frustrated. And sometimes even just calling my husband and venting, right? Like, this is what happened. And he's always good about, all right, well, so what? Right? Like, it happened. Get over it. Move on.
Men are so rational.
They are, and sometimes you need that, because we as women, or even just some people, get very emotional. Again, going back to taking it very personally, right? And we don't take it personally.
Awesome. So, just kind of taking a look at everything we talked about, because there was a lot. So we are definitely going to go into that second episode here at some point. Advocacy lives everywhere.
It does.
And it's very interesting that if a mom feels, the need or the push, look into it, because maybe that's a niche for you. And then also really taking care of your kids by taking care of yourself.
Yeah.
And it sounds like, that's where we come back to all the time, is taking care of ourselves, love ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And because we are moms, and moms to me are just incredible. We are, very strong. Look at everything we do.
Yes.
We're raising kids. We are, navigating a school system, whether they have disabilities or not.
Yeah.
We are maybe running a business, or working a full-time job, or taking care of the household, or our aging parents.
Yes.
Our husbands, or, if, whoever's in the household. And maybe even doing all of these things at once.
Right.
So it's really taking care of ourselves, and that will, I think, open up the door to our authentic self, and we can do anything.
Absolutely. My husband always jokes with me that if anything ever happened to me, he would have to like hire 5 women just to be able to do everything that I do. And I think that's, for most women, we just do so much, because there is so much to take care of.
There it is. Yeah. Well, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me. I enjoyed it.
You're welcome. And we'll see you again soon.
All right. Sounds good.
All right, see ya.
See ya.
I'd like to introduce Becky, a powerhouse mom on a mission. She navigated the maze of education systems for the rights of children with unique needs. So Becky has emerged as a beacon of hope for parents like herself. Frustrated by the lack of clarity and support, Becky refused to let her challenges define her journey. So instead, she turned her frustration into fuel, transforming herself into an educational advocate extraordinaire. So, with a child in need of a 504 IEP, Becky knows firsthand the uphill battle many parents face. Determined to bridge the gap between confusion and clarity, she dove headfirst into the intricacies of the education system. Armed with knowledge and fueled by passion, Becky became a fierce advocate for her child and for countless others. Now, Becky brings her wealth of experience and unwavering determination to the forefront as a guest on this podcast episode. Join us as we delve into Becky's inspiring journey from mom to educational advocate, uncovering the invaluable insights and strategies she's gathered along the way. Together, let's learn how to navigate the complexities of the education system and ensure every child receives the support and resources they deserve.